The first thing you learn in Willow Glen Estates is that community harmony means whatever the HOA board says it means on any given Tuesday. The second thing is that Christmas decorations must be tasteful, which in practice means white lights only, no blinking, and absolutely nothing that might make a neighbor smile too loudly. I thought I had tasteful nailed. Easy does it, Colonel Crank, I muttered, steadying the black fur hat on my favorite 3-foot nutcracker as I balanced on the ladder. This was my first holiday season in the new house, and I was bound and determined to do it right. My dad had passed down his collection, 12 hand-carved wooden soldiers he'd picked up on army postings in Germany. There was Major Muffin with his tiny cinnamon roll, Captain Flint with his pipe, and Colonel Crank leading the charge. I'd spent all morning lining them along the front walk like a festive honor guard. I stepped back, hands on hips, whistling a mangled dance of the Sugar Plum Fairy, when I heard the unmistakable squeak of orthopedic sneakers on fresh concrete. Eleanor Pritchard, HOA president, marched up in her perennial white visor and clipboard. She stopped precisely at the property line, as if my lawn might be contagious. "James," she said, eyes locked on my soldiers. "We need to discuss your dolls." "Nutcrackers," I corrected, smile stiffening. "Traditional. From the ballet." "They're unsettling," she declared. "Captain Flint is glaring at my golden doodle. Mrs. Larson down the street says Major Muffin is mocking her low-carb lifestyle. Emotional distress, James." "There would, Eleanor." Painted eyes. "Tradition is no excuse for disharmony." Article 9, Section 4. Tasteful, harmonious, non-disturbing. You have 48 hours. She spun on her squeaky heel and retreated to her own yard, which featured exactly 3 identical white light deer. I figured she was posturing. No one actually finds a guy for nutcrackers. Wrong. Next afternoon, a cream-colored envelope was taped to my door. Formal violation, $100 per day per figure. My father's legacy, reduced to a daily toll. I stared at Colonel Crank's scowl and felt a grin spread. She wants harmony? I'll give her harmony. That night, I sat at the kitchen table with the 300-page covenants binder and a bourbon. No twinkling lights. No inflatables. No lawn gnomes, flamingos, or audible music boxes. Then I hit gold. Article 12, Statuary. Human likenesses permitted if professionally constructed, non-whimsical, and not obstructing sight lines. Article 15 required holiday spirit, but cross-referenced all other rules. Nutcrackers were whimsical, but human likenesses of the board itself? Professionally made, Santa-hatted, and pointedly harmonious? That might just thread the needle. The plan crystallized for life-size mannequins of the entire HOA board. Eleanor front and center, accusatory finger extended. Harold the treasurer squinting at invisible receipts. Victor the secretary with his clipboard and tape measure. Gladys the vice president, nodding in perpetual agreement. A holiday tribute to our tireless guardians of beige. Finding the artist took persistence. Retail suppliers offered neutral eggheads. A bronze sculptor laughed me off. Finally, in the shadowy corners of a prop maker forum, I located Rex at Creature Effects Depot. His portfolio featured 6-armed aliens and oozing zombies. "HOA revenge display?" he asked over the phone, voice like gravel in a blender. "I'm in. Rush job, premium price. Worth every penny." For 2 days I became the neighborhood creep, perched in the attic with a telephoto lens. Eleanor yelling at the landscaper for a rogue blade of grass. Harold auditing a grocery receipt in his driveway. Victor ticketing a slightly crooked basketball hoop. Gladys nodding along in her parked sedan. I emailed the photos with the subject, reference gold. Rex replied with a single thumbs-up emoji I pretended not to see. I removed the nutcrackers publicly on Saturday morning, wrapping each in bubble wrap while whistling a dirge-like Jingle Bells. Eleanor watched from her window, sipping from her world's okayest HOA president mug, nodding triumphantly. My neighbor Paul strolled by with his labradoodle. "Surrendering already, James?" "Just making room for something more harmonious," I called. 4 sleepless nights later, at 3 a.m., an unmarked panel van idled at the curb. Rex and 2 assistants in black unloaded 4 wrapped figures like mob disposals. Unveiling them under flashlight beams stole my breath. Eleanor's silicone skin had visible pores. Her visor cast a perfect shadow. Harold's squint could audit souls. Victor's pout screamed petty authority. Gladys's head bobbed on a silent motor. Uncanny valley perfection, Rex whispered. Battery lasts 10 days. We bolted them to plywood bases painted lawn green. Eleanor center stage, finger pointing, laminated violation notice in hand. Harold auditing sidewalk cracks with a fines ledger. Victor measuring an offending shrub. Gladys nodding behind Eleanor's shoulder. Santa hats, tinsel garlands, and a sign, Willow Glen's dedicated board. A harmonious holiday tribute. Rex slow clapped. This is suburban dada, man. They vanished into the night. I brewed coffee at 5:45 and waited in the dark living room, binder on my lap. At 6:23 Eleanor emerged in her pink robe, visor already in place, to fetch the paper. She bent, straightened, and froze. The paper slipped. Her mug tilted, latte pooling on the pavement. She shuffled closer, squinting, then recognized herself. The sound that escaped was part scream, part kettle whistle. James. Lights flicked on up and down the street. Paul stumbled out in boxers. What in the fresh hell? Morning salute to our board. I called from the porch, sipping coffee. Eleanor charged my lawn, technically trespassing, and poked silicone Eleanor's cheek. This is harassment. This is effigy. She slapped nodding Gladys. The head bounced merrily. Paul started clapping. A passing commuter rolled down her window, cackled, and snapped photos. Eleanor dialed furiously. Roger. Get the attorney. Call the police. It's nodding at me. She informed me the cops were en route for public insult. I leaned against the column. Jail for tinsel? Bold strategy. 2 patrol cars arrived without sirens, officer fatigue rolling in. Sergeant Morales, mustache heroic, surveyed the scene and sighed the sigh of a man who'd seen every flavor of stupid. Rookie Bennett circled the display like a museum docent. Is the squinter calculating property taxes? He asked, voice cracking. Eleanor demanded arrests for treason. Morales flipped open a notebook. Specific crime, ma'am. Impersonating an HOA officer. They're wearing Santa hats. I offered helpfully, producing the binder. Article 12 allows human likenesses if professional. Invoice attached. Article 15 requires holiday spirit. Check the tinsel. Morales's mustache twitched in heroic restraint. Civil matter. Call your lawyer. Do not dial 911 for statues. Bennett retreated to his cruiser, shoulders heaving. Eleanor taped a crimson emergency meeting notice to my door with enough duct tape to repair the space shuttle. 7 p.m., community center, mandatory. The room was packed, standing room only, phones filming. Eleanor banged her gavel like a judge in a tantrum. Mr. James Thompson has inflicted a travesty upon our values. She proposed emergency nuisance declaration, overriding the loophole with spirit of the bylaws. I stood. Which written bylaw, Eleanor? Article 12 is explicit. My previous display was cited as whimsical. These are professional portraits in holiday attire. Paul piped up. You fine me $200 for wind chimes that play Amazing Grace. James followed the rules to the letter. Mrs. Larson added, I find the board motivational. Look at Eleanor's can-do finger. Laughter rippled. Eleanor demanded a vote to remove. Board raised 4 hands. The room raised a forest of nays. Paul standing on his chair, both arms high. Motion slaughtered. Eleanor gathered her papers and fled, board trailing like deflated balloons. The mannequins became local legend. Neighbors added flourishes, a naughty and nice list in Harold's ledger, a Miss Willow Glen sash on Eleanor. Families posed for Christmas cards. A blogger dubbed it Mannequin Meltdown, and it went countywide viral. On Christmas morning, I reinstated the Nutcrackers in front of their fiberglass overlords, a wooden army saluting the new regime. January 3rd, Rex stored the board for future holidays. Eleanor's house sprouted a for sale sign. She resigned citing stress and moved to a condo with no lawn to police. I sit on my porch now, Nutcrackers guarding the walk, lawn finally mine. The real creepy wasn't carved wood. It was the clipboard tyranny that thought it owned joy. This year, I cracked that nut wide open. What about you? Ever faced petty tyranny dressed as community standards? Ever pushed back with rules lawyering or creative compliance? Drop your story below. Where do you stand on fighting injustice, quiet endurance, or loud, legal rebellion? Speak your mind. Every voice counts.